Whatever. It works.
Welcome back to Whiskey Uncut.
Uh-oh.
Something's echoing.
Dear
Dear
Lord.
Lord. That's gonna... Okay. It stopped?
Stop?
No.
No.
Oh, dear.
dear.
This is just like...
oh my gosh.
I'm gonna lose my mind. So
You
you talk. You explain what we're doing while... Your mic's
up?
Oh,
No.
there you go.
There it is. All right.
Okay.
So how many people do we have in there?
We have Lisby and Josh
Adams,
Adams, and I apologize for starting late because there's some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
It just cropped up at the last
And
second.
now Paul's echoing. Like, it sounds like he's in a cave. So we can maybe they have some questions that we can answer while waiting on you.
Did that work? No.
Okay.
Test. I think. No. Dang it. Somehow there's multiple microphones picking it up, and we'll figure it out.
All right. This is the problem with live shows.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So here's my question, James. What would or do you want to introduce our guest? Because we have a guest.
We have a guest.
Let's see.
Maybe this one on a very bad camera. So
Nice.
This is just like our guest Chad from Two Soul Spirits. Your co-founder.
Yeah. My business partner in Two Souls. We invited him on today. We're going to do some little promo videos afterwards. Hopefully we'll be pushing out. But I thought today's subject would be good for Chad too. So
yeah. Thanks for having me.
No, dang it. Still no good. I'm glad to have you on because
we've had you on before, and we tried the neat glass. I think.
We did the different nosing glasses, right?
Yeah.
I can't hear me again.
Oh, that was wrong headphone.
There we go.
I'm just going to turn off my headphones if I'm echoing. So we had you on for the neat glass, and that was hilarious trying to drink out of that thing, but also like using the water pipettes, like
and the big mug.
And the giant Hoffman mug. That was actually on one of our photos. Was like you with the giant Hoffman mug for the episode. So I'm glad you're back.
Where is it?
We need that right now. Yeah, I know. I need to bash myself over the head with it. This is what I need to do. So our topic. What?
Just turn mine down a little bit. It sounds like you're in my brain. Yeah, that's good.
So our topic today is going to be perma-shelf. And James had me provide the lineup because Chad is a little less familiar with Scotch. And so, but we're each going to talk about what would be on our perma-shelf as far as like 5 bottles that are replaceable. So the criteria, replaceable. So it can't be like stag, right? Because like you can't reliably have stag on your shelf. I mean, maybe I can, but most people can't. And then like it's probably needs a reason why it's one of your top 5. It doesn't have to be the best 5 whiskeys ever, but it's got a reason to be there. But before we get into that, I think you and Chad had wanted to talk about some Two Soul stuff.
Or no, not really. We're going to do the promo videos at the end. Okay. But yeah, let's jump right into it. And do you want to go like one of us read all 5? Or how do you want to work on this?
Yeah. See, Josh Adams is pretty awful. But I don't know what it could be. Oh, I know what it is.
Oh,
I think it's the webcam that we're using for capturing.
Just turn Chad off.
Just turn me off.
Just turn you off.
Chad will be so only for the rest of the podcast.
I can deactivate it. Let's see. Does that? Nope. And I'm gonna lose my mind.
Oh, that's better.
No, it's not. You can
it's
still hear
it. It is in mine, but
does that? There it is.
Yep.
I got it.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Folks that are watching, is that better?
Yep, that's better. We can turn chat back on.
Chad's back.
Because otherwise it's going to be a black screen every time Chad inputs.
This is an interesting start. Oh, now it sounds like it's doing it again.
No, it's not. Okay.
It is.
So we're good to go. Let me know, Josh, if that fixed audio on your end, or if I just fixed it for me. I guess I'm the only person I hear.
Everybody else is still hearing it.
So this is whiskey perma-shelf. So I picked. Should I start since we have my whiskeys? Sure, and then you guys can talk about it and we can keep drinking.
Yeah.
So I picked these five whiskeys basically because they're all under $70 ish. So they're all affordable. They're all readily available in terms of you can go to a store and actually find them other than the Lefroy cask strength. The Lefroy cask strength is probably the only rare one up here. But for those listening, we have Mahogany 12-year-old.
And that's a
single barrel. So it does vary a little bit.
Yeah. Have you noticed a lot of variability in them?
Not a lot.
I mean, every time I've had it, it sort of tastes the same, but I don't drink it enough to really know.
Yeah, I've only had multiple barrels of it side by side, like twice, to be able to like compare directly. And it is just enough different where it's like I think that single barrels are always a good thing. If you're going to have something like a permanent staple in your collection, getting a single barrel is always a fun way to do it because it's going to be slightly different every single time, right? And then so that fills the Scotch, the ex-bourbon barrel-only roll. And then we have the Edward Dower 10-year-old.
You're saying bad again, I think, on Echo.
He says slightly better, but still echoing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can figure it out once I get you guys drinking.
Okay.
And so that's going to be our sherry cask, our Speyside sherry cask one. And then we have Talisker 10 to be our island malt. So we're starting to get a little bit of peat in there, as you should for a Scotch whiskey, perma-shelf. And then I guess I should probably put this at the end because it's cask strength, but then we have the Port Charlotte 10, which adds in a little bit more peat and some sherry casks, some wine casks, some different types of casks going on there. And then Lefroy for the cask strength, big peat offering.
All right. So while you're working on the sound, I'm going to get Chad some of this Balvenie and see what he thinks of it. This is probably, I think out of all of them, Chad, this is probably the most like bourbon-y, right? Like if you're a bourbon drinker, this is probably the one that's going to translate the best. So we'll see what you think of this one.
Is it peated?
No.
Oh yeah.
And so this is 12 years. You're looking at little over 95 proof.
That should have fixed it. Yeah. I fixed it. The audio source magically returned.
That's what just keeps happening.
Yeah. So and I have one set to have a delay so that it's synced up with the video properly because the video audio don't transmit to YouTube the same right. And so then there was one without the delay and one with the delay. That's why there's that go. Although I can only hear my voice. Maybe you're time traveling.
Might be. Dude, this Balvenie's good. Like I remember having this before, and I really like it. I'm always stunned by how light the color is. And I know we're looking at other ones that maybe have some artificial coloring and they have sherry cask and stuff like that. But man, it is a light straw at best with color.
Well, the thing is, so like by the time you get from an ex-bourbon barrel, and that bourbon barrel is probably like 6 to 8 years old.
Yeah.
That's leaching most of the color out of the barrel. And then this is Balvenie. I've had different reps say like that they use natural color, and some are like I don't really want to commit to that.
Wow.
And I think it's because on their non-single barrel offerings, they use artificial coloring for consistency. On their single barrel stuff, I don't believe they do because I literally have, and I can show you.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can see that they're markedly different. Like this one's black.
Yeah.
This one's semi.
Are those sherry casks or ones?
They're both 15-year sherry casks.
Okay.
And so one is much darker than the other. So like obviously they're not coloring those for consistency. And so I think single barrel offerings and then probably some higher end stuff is natural color, but the everything else is artificial color. And it really just goes to show you what the color should be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if I was looking at this as a bourbon, I would say that was like 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. It's really light. And I think a lot of people color for expectations. So I wonder too if in if you're looking at the sherry casks, do they add color to that to make it look more sherry-ish?
I mean, I think some of them do. For sure, like Macallan doesn't, though, right? So like Macallan's natural color, and their whiskeys are super dark.
Yeah.
Like when it's a sherry cask, you don't really need to.
Especially if it's a first
right.
Fill,
but the thing is, like those 215s are both sherry casks, and they're markedly different. So if you were expecting like and I guess what I don't really know for sure, right, is like if they didn't add color into it, could you get two sherry cask whiskeys that naturally had that variable color, but taste the same? Because I don't think you could. I think fundamentally it would taste different if it was that much darker because it only got that much darker either having more oak influence or more sherry influence.
Well, and it would have to be more sherry, probably, right? Right. I mean, you're not going to get any oak influence really out of a sherry barrel.
Right. Be a different barrel as well, barrel type thing. May have used.
Yeah. Well, there's different sherry casks. I mean, there's American sherry, Spanish sherry. So I guess my point though is like people associate flavor and color, but I think it's because with finished whiskeys especially. It does show you how heavy the finishing process is.
Well, and if you're used to bourbon and rye, and generally the older it gets, the darker it gets because you're using new char barrels, and you're using high char, right? You're using char 4, char 5. I think that makes a huge difference as well. But when you're using a used barrel like this, man, sometimes the color difference on those is pretty impressive. So what did you say the price is on the Balvenie?
The Balvenie is about $60 to $70.
That's a damn good bottle for $60 or $70.
Yeah, it is, and especially because we've been drinking all this crappy bourbon lately.
Oh,
and
there we go. Yeah, all that Two Souls garbage that we've been drinking.
Yeah, no, I mean this is just to me this whiskey just has a beautiful aroma. It's very floral, and then it's got nice citrusy apple kind of notes, and then it's got some nuts and
It is very. The first thing I thought of when I smelled it was apple. It's very appley.
Yeah,
and it's not very grainy, which again kind of messes with your brain a little bit because you look at it and it's so light and you think it's going to be grainy, but it's really not that grainy.
Yeah, I would say this is if you took Glenfiddich 12-year-old, which most people have tried, but you added complexity to it. It's actually got a few layers there.
Yeah,
and they bottle it at 47.8%. So. A little more.
It's got a little kick to it.
That's top tier for Scotch for AV.
It's as hot as it gets.
That's pretty much as hot as it gets.
Although we have the horrible Lafroig cast strength coming, and that's 120.
Yeah.
So
boy,
that's like a peat bomb.
Well,
I have to say, I remember trying most of these with you on the show at some point or another. I'm surprised you didn't pick anything from Bruichladdich.
I did. The Port Charlotte.
Oh, sorry. I meant which one am I talking about? The
Classic Lottie?
Yeah, the blue one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what always was one that you went bonkers over. So I always thought that would be one with. No,
I nerded out over it. Okay. There's a big difference.
But okay, so when you think about this and you're thinking about replacing it, are you doing it because you want to drink it, or are these bottles that you think other people when they come over are going to want to drink?
I'm doing it because I want to drink this stuff. This is my perma-shelf.
Okay.
Right. So
all right. I took a little bit different approach. I looked at it too as what can I share with people? What are people going to enjoy?
Right.
Because otherwise all 5 of mine would be different years of stag.
Right.
That just
but I already said it couldn't be something.
But you didn't tell me that beforehand.
Well,
luckily I thought about that as I was making up the list, but yeah.
So for me it's one, I don't care about other people, so it's just what I want to drink.
Yeah, screw them, Paul. Screw them.
But no, but for me, it's like covering the range of flavor profiles of Scotch, right? Because realistically, like the Balvenie 12, I could probably, I mean, like that's just not really my favorite style of Scotch. Like I would probably put like Balvenie Ton 1509 in there instead of that. Like if it was just for me, right? So, yeah, that the it's more of the affordable side, and then trying to give myself a good diversity. It's not just stuff that, I think would like I could share with people. It's kind of both. It's in between.
So if you had to pick one of these, which is your, like if you're going to go back to one over and over again, because that's what I thought about with mine. And we've talked about this before, but I don't typically buy multiple bottles of the same thing. So it's not like I run out of a Four Roses single barrel and I'm like, oh shit, and I have to go out and buy another Four Roses single barrel. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So that's not my approach. So for me, a lot of it was, I really, really like this. Would I go out and buy another bottle so I can share it with friends, so I can have something else like to kind of sip on or celebrate with? And so mine they kind of end up being my favorites. Like which one of these would you say is your favorite? If you were going to go back and grab one of these off the shelf on a regular basis, which one would you grab?
Probably the Port Charlotte.
Okay, because that's what I'm going to try next. So thank you.
Well, no. You got to work. You got to work your way.
No, if I drink all these, I'm going to pass out.
You drink a very tiny bit.
I can't drink all these.
Go with the Edgedown.
I already tried this one. So
when did you try it?
While you were trying to figure out the sound. Well, I like it. It's very, very sherry forward. It's very sherry forward.
Yeah. So that is one of the last like family owned distilleries, from what I understand. And I thought I would read the back of the tin because I thought there's a part of it that didn't make any sense to me that I thought was funny.
Okay, let's do it.
This is from Edgedour, the back of the tin. Using skills handed down over the generations, the men of Edgedour Distillery follow the standards of those who have gone before. Only 3 in number, as there always have been, they continue to produce the finest single malt whiskey available. A truly handcrafted malt. Edgedour is golden in the glass. I don't think I would call that gold.
That's not gold
at all.
No.
They missed the mark.
So I wonder if that's
it's like russet.
I wonder if that's a generic one that applies to like all of their whiskeys, but this one in particular is a sherry cask. So
maybe, I guess.
Yeah,
you know who wrote that? ChatGPT.
Yeah. It was like, oh, it's golden in the glass.
With a delicious aroma of sugared almonds and a hint of Oloroso. Far more than a hint.
It's a lot of Oloroso.
It's a sledgehammer of Oloroso.
Yeah. And I like it. I have to admit, I like it.
The smooth, creamy, light malty taste is followed by a mellow, warming finish. The 3 men of Edgedour. Now, what I should have verified, but it makes it sound like there's only 3 people that work at this distillery.
Sounds like there's 3 people doing everything.
They're all men.
Doing everything.
Yeah, and they're all
which is like
there's no women involved in the Edgedour making.
I don't understand how that's possible, but I mean maybe it is.
Maybe it's 3 people who like own it or 3 people who run the stills, but I guarantee you they have more than 3 people involved in the company, right?
Yeah.
So, and how readily available is this? Because this is a bottle I remember trying on the show before, but I had never heard of it at the time we tried it. So if somebody goes into their local bottle shop, is this going to be there?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like ubiquitous, like because it's not a super well-known brand, but you don't have to look that hard to find it.
So, Chad, I'm really curious to see what you think of this one because this is very. So, for one of the reasons why I wanted to do this with the Scotch is because Chad doesn't drink much Scotch.
No.
And when he did drink Scotch, he only drank garbage. And he drank these little tiny like pilot samples. And since then, I of course have pulled him to the dark side, and It's been all bourbon and rye for years. And then we did 2 Souls, and it's been bourbon and rye for years. And so I really wanted to see what your like, what's your palate that I feel like we've honed for bourbon and rye thinks of these different scotches. So especially this one, this is a lot more flavor than what you're ever going to get in a bourbon or rye.
Yeah, this one's like, well, we're getting more into the peat here, right? And so
no peat.
No peat?
Nope, not
so
yet.
That's just a Oloroso then?
That's just the sherry funk, man.
Oh my gosh.
You'll know the peat when you when you find the peat.
I think you started me on the classic Lottie right after we met, and I really like that. And the first one we had, the Balvenie, was like reminding me of it so much. It was just smooth, consistent, delicate, floral. This one,
there's nothing delicate about that Scotch.
It's kind of like you walk into an old, like 100-year-old house, and it's like, boom.
Yeah, this is one of the. I mean, we've done some pretty heavy sherry finish on here. Paul, what was the one that we did we tried what we thought was a first cask versus
Yeah, that was the Balvenie.
No,
the 15.
Was it a Glen? I can't remember. It wasn't that one though.
That we thought the one that was like first fill or second fill.
Yeah.
No, that was the Balvenie 15.
No, because I have a bottle at home and I don't have any Balvenie at home. It had a red label.
Glendronach 12?
Yeah, Glendronach 12.
Oh. That was the chill filter versus the non-chill filter.
All right.
Yeah.
This reminds me a little bit of that. Like that's a really, really heavy like sherry cask Scotch. And this reminds me a little of that. I really like it though.
Yeah. That is a the Glendronach 12 is also sherry cask only and mostly Oloroso, that has Pedro Jimenez in there too. Now the Talisker, now we're getting into some peat.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is like can you hand me that bottle? This is like 15.
Smells like bacon.
20 parts per million. So it's like medium level of peat. And this is one of my very favorite whiskeys. So the downside of this whiskey is it's made by Diageo, who makes everything else.
Yes.
And so it's artificially colored, although they do actually bottle it at a little bit higher proof than pretty much all their other stuff. So instead of getting 40 or 43% like the rest of their whiskeys, you get 45.8.
So a little, yeah.
Yeah. So you get a little boost, which helps. But Talisker to me always has like this nice peppery character to it. And then with the smoke, it's just it's a very campfire like bonfire kind of smoke. It's not super medicinal or stinky.
There's a little bit of that like Band-Aidy note, but it's not nearly as much as you get from others. The nose to me is it's sweet and smoky, which I kind of like. I don't know what the hell the sweet is though, and it smells like bacon. So there's like some sort of sweet note, and then there's kind of like a bacon or cured meat note, and then there's that like campfirey note.
Yeah, it kind of smells like it's almost got like that prosciutto.
Yeah, it's some sort of weird preserved meat that's going to give you cancer note. but it's good. It's like, I have to say, like you've got me to the point where I can appreciate some peat.
Yeah.
To me, this is a really, really balanced pour, though. For me, it's a little sweet. I know what I'm drinking. The peat's there, and it gives it some body, but it doesn't completely overwhelm the palate,
right? Like
it does in some of the other whiskeys. I actually quite like this. And so, how much is this bottle?
$60-$70
for a 10-year. That's not bad.
Yeah, they're all about in that price range.
And so, what is the range in Talisker? Because I've seen some like really heavy hitting special releases and stuff. Do they have some really allocated bottles and some high end stuff?
I mean, they're special. So like their distiller edition that comes out every year is heavier sherry finish. So people kind of have mixed opinions on whether or not there's any sherry cask in this. I personally think there is a little bit.
Maybe that's the sweeter note kind of coming out. And they don't disclose it, I'm sure.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. If you went to the distillery, you might be able to ask.
And they would tell you they don't give out that information.
I've looked online and I can't really find anything one way or the other. Like, to me, it reminds me of like Glenfiddich 12 is technically 80% ex-bourbon barrels, 20% sherry casks. But it doesn't taste like sherry cask at all because those are still probably reused sherry casks. So it's like, really it's like 5% sherry flavor. You know, it's so small that like you can't, I'm sure you could taste a difference if they didn't have it in there or they wouldn't do it, but it's not enough for you to be able to tell like, oh, there's sherry cask in this. To me, with the Talisker, like I just get like this little bit of darker fruit to it that makes me think that, but that could just be the peat interplaying with.
And it's hard to tell too, because you said they use artificial coloring. And so it's not like you can tell by the color, because
Right,
this is
by it being
considerably
darker.
Yeah, this is considerably darker than the Balvenie.
Than the 12-year. Yeah.
And yeah, you're looking at 10 versus 12, and it's it's almost twice as dark.
Yep.
so it's like, you can't really tell a whole lot, but there is a sweetness to it. And there's almost like how sometimes with sherry you get kind of a little funky note at the back end. There's a little bit of that, but it's hard to tell too, because the peat balances it out. And the peat, for me especially, kind of interferes with the other things I'm getting. But yeah, I actually quite like that. I think it's good.
Yeah. So the ones that I would say are really hard to find are like the Talisker 18 and the 25. Any of their older stuff typically gets sold pretty dang quickly. So yeah, but they don't really do too many other special editions besides that.
And does anything get more peaty than this, or is this about
No.
This is about it?
Yeah, so once you when you peat a single malt, it's the smokiest right off the still. Like it doesn't, and that smoke just dissipates over time. So the older it gets, it's always going to get
Yeah, I just wondered
smoky.
if they did anything that was more heavily peated.
No, they don't have like a heavy peat edition.
Okay, so this is pretty much what you're going to get with it.
Yep, and it's a major component in Johnny Walker also.
All right, so I'm obviously mostly a bourbon and rye drinker. I would say if you're a bourbon and rye drinker, the Balvenie is probably going to be the easiest for you to relate to out of the ones we've tried, and certainly out of the ones we're going to try. But I think the Talisker is a nice introduction to peat because it's pretty soft. It reminds me a little bit of High West Campfire in the fact that it's not in the flavor profile overall, but in the fact that the smoke kind of balances out the other notes really well, and it's well integrated. So I think if you're a bourbon drinker and you're interested in kind of dipping your toe a little bit into the peat area, I think this is a really good option to start with.
What do you think of the Talisker?
It's been a long time since I've had Scotch, and I gotta say, like, it's interesting nosing it and you're not like just getting all straight up alcohol. It's just like, wow, there's something else here. And so
yeah, it's almost like it's a refined, elegant spirit, not like.
See, Chad, you open the door for that shit.
Shit.
You can't open the door for him to brag about Scotch. You got to start out negative and get Paul on the defensive first.
It was good for a pour.
I will say, like, the nose is so much more subtle than what we're used to, right? Because Chad and I we just sat here on, what was it, last Saturday, and we went through, it was like 16 barrels, and they were all 120 proof plus.
My God.
Oh. And the note, like when you nose that, like some of those just fly out of the glass at you, right?
Now, see,
these do not do that as much.
To me, the peat makes up for that.
It
completely.
Does, yeah.
Like the peat totally transforms the nose of a whiskey to the point where it's like the ABV almost doesn't even matter because there's so much, pouring out of the glass. But
well, and that's why I think when we get to things like Lagavulin and stuff, it's overwhelming to me because that's all that comes out of the glass.
Right.
I think with the Talisker was a little bit of a balance. Now we're on to the Port Charlotte 10.
Yeah.
And this is an Islay whiskey.
Yes.
So I'm assuming this is more heavily peated, correct?
It is, but it's probably not going to taste that much heavier. Just because I think this bottle's been open longer.
Oh, so some of it, yeah.
But I think this one, I want to say this is 30 or 40 parts per million.
Oh, I like this one better, actually.
Yes. It's a better whiskey.
So good job, Chad.
Yeah. I mean, just in my opinion, it's natural color. It's, I think they do this at 50%, 100 proof.
Oh, okay.
And that's nice too.
Bruichladdich is everything they make's great.
Yeah.
Probably better barrels, it's a more boutique product. This is less available all the time. And that's only because it's a smaller distillery. And so they have less capacity. But yeah.
So this one's interesting because this is more of the standard peat profile that I'm used to, right? It's got a little bit more of the Band-Aidy kind of iodine note to it than what the other one did. But it's similar balanced. Like you still get sweet up front, and then you get a little bit of that peaty note in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one as well. I'm kind of mad at myself because I'm liking peated whiskey, but this is pretty good. This is pretty good, and it's not like this one is not meaty. There's none of that like sweaty meaty note to it.
It's got a nice like peppery black peppers.
Yeah. There's a little black pepper on the back.
Yeah, I was trying to see if they disclose because I'm pretty sure there's some sherry cask in there.
It tastes like it.
It's either sherry or wine. Actually, I think the Port Charlotte might be wine. Let's see. So, and Bruichladdich actually gives you like stats. I like their little flavor map that they give you. But so this is 100% Scottish barley from the Inverness-shire region. So that's one of the things, like Bruichladdich as a distillery wide tries to only use Scottish barley, and then even on a lot of their products they only use Islay barley. So they're really like, as far as a big brand, they have a very micro distillery perspective in terms of how they do everything. And this says aged 10 years, 65% first fill American whiskey cask, 10% second fill American whiskey casks, and 25% second fill French wine casks. Yep. And I was right, 40 parts per million on the peat.
The thing that jumps out at me in this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, because you're much better with Scotch than I am, but there's almost like a florality to it. And I don't pick up those floral notes in the Talisker as much. It's subtle, but it's kind of lingering in the background a little bit.
To me, it's that red wine. It just it just adds so many layers to it that, yeah.
And they don't tell you what kind of red wine, right? So it's just sort of a generic red wine.
French red wine.
But there's a little bit of a floral note to it that I think is really nice and kind of, it almost makes it a pretty whiskey. Like the Talisker 10 was similar in terms of body, but I wouldn't call it a pretty whiskey. It's kind of like it's kind of a standard approach. This one is, like you said, it's kind of boutiquey. It's kind of pretty.
Yeah, I like the Talisker 10 because there's very few whiskeys that sit in the lightly peated category. Like Highland Park is there, which is even lighter than the Talisker, which maybe would have been more up your alley, Chad. But besides Talisker and that, it's usually either non-peated or heavily peated. And there's a few other ones that are, less common, but it's just like if you want something that's a little more classic flavors and less on that stinky kind of, a little less punch, the Talisker's nice. I like the peppery character to it. But like I said, in my opinion, the Port Charlotte is just fundamentally a much better spirit all the way around. It's a lot more complex.
And they have a bunch of different, do they have a bunch of different versions of Port Charlotte, or what's the age range on it?
No, they don't.
This is it?
Yeah, I mean, once you get past that, they go into like the Octomore series.
Oh.
The Port Charlotte, they do like special editions, but they're not like really readily available.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll do like the Port Charlotte like Islay barley edition, so it'll be the same thing, but just with barley from Islay or, stuff like that.
Yeah, that one I've seen.
Yeah, they have like the Port Charlotte Islay barley 2014. But I mean, they've only done 5 variations of it in the whole time they've made it. So they've done the Islay barley 2013, 2014, and then they have the SC01 and the PMC01.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just, I mean, it's pretty much just what it is.
And it's all roughly 10 years? Or,
yeah. But when they do the Port Charlotte line is basically like Bruichladdach's heavily peated line. So like, that's why it doesn't say Bruichladdich on here.
Right.
Because they don't want people to get confused and buy a Bruichladdich product thinking it's going to be heavily peated, or buy a Port Charlotte
and think it's not going
to be peated because it says Bruichladdich on it. So like, it only says Bruichladdich on here, all the way in the back, distilled and malted and bottled at Bruichladdich Distillery. Okay. But everything on it is Port Charlotte.
That's kind of cool. I mean, if you're going to create something that's an entirely different profile, just create a different label.
Right. Because like if you have like Macallan wouldn't release a heavily peated malt as like a standard, as like half of their core range.
Right. Yeah.
And that's Bruichlotti's problem, is like everything they do pretty much is a special edition, except for the classic Lottie and the Port Charlotte.
Okay.
You know, so like those are their two, like they're in the range all the time, but they don't have older age statement whiskeys. They don't have like a Bruichladdich 18, 25, 30. Everything else is like a limited kind of thing, like the Dark Art series, or Black Art series.
Those are good.
Those are really good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good. I like that. I agree. So far, Chad, do you like that one the best out of the group?
Yeah. I mean, if you want something peated, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's between that, and I just like the Balvenie single barrel because to me it's more along what I'm used to.
Yeah.
But I like those two.
I can appreciate the Port Charlotte for sure, though.
Yeah.
Is is the classic Lottie? That's not
peated.
It's not
because
peated,
that's
no.
Bruichladdich.
Yeah. Okay.
And that one to me, when I was saying like, I don't put it in here, but I nerd out over it. I nerd out over it because it's super malt forward. It's ex-bourbon barrel only. It's like 6 years old, 5 to 6 years old. It's 100 proof, natural color. Like it's all these, it's like the closest you get from a big distillery to like, here's a craft whiskey that, you know, that showcases like the grain and doesn't have a lot of fluff on it. That's why I nerd out over that bottle, because it's one of the few Scotch whiskeys you can buy that tastes like a rustic, you know, like this came off the still kind of thing.
And it's surprisingly good for being that young.
Right.
Like that's, I think my favorite thing about it is a lot of people say that Scotch has to be super old. And I get that, like malt needs some time, but that is probably the best young Scotch that I've had.
Right.
I have a bottle at home. I thought about actually putting that on my list, and then I thought maybe you would, so I took it off. Just because if somebody comes over and they want Scotch, like that's a nice bottle of Scotch. It's not super expensive. It's easy to find. You know, bourbon people will like it.
What's
it's
funny
kind
though,
of general
is
applicability.
usually Scotch drinkers don't like it that much because they think it's too rough and too like.
Well, nerdy Scotch drinkers will like it.
They
right?
do. Yeah. But the typical
you're like
Scotch,
snobby Scotch drinkers, yeah.
Right. And I would say like your consumer Scotch drinker, right, which is like your dad or your professor or your doctor who's like
your professor.
Your
You're
professor.
shitting on professors now.
Yes.
On the podcast.
Like, you know, people.
Come on, Paul.
Affluent people who don't like. Yeah, they're probably an expert about something, you know, but but everything else in their life is like they drive the BMW 5 Series that technically sucks, but it's really expensive, so they think it's like a good car.
Those are the people.
They drive, you know, they
wear a short robe and
they
smoke
wore a
cigar.
short robe and smoke a cigar. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
the people that are like right on the edge of being like wealthy and classy, but they're not really, you know. And so they think that Macallan 18 is the end all be all of Scotch.
I'm kind of flattered that you think as a professor I'm classy. Like I am not classy at all. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
So
all right, let's move on to your last one. This is the Lefroy, and then we'll get into my list.
Okay.
This is bad.
Well, did you try it yet?
I did.
Chad?
It is really bad.
Like it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Come on.
That doesn't
Chad.
make any sense.
That does not make sense. No.
Yeah.
It's the ABV, man. Y'all are ABV snobs.
I think that's what's happened. Is he's turned me into an ABV horse. So.
It is so. Yeah. Oh, that's
Dude,
a good one though.
That was a good one.
It's so Band-Aidy. It's not as bad as Lagavulin. I think for my palate, Lagavulin and Octomore are the worst.
No, Lefroy's the worst by far.
Oh,
but
see, I don't get it. I don't think it's as bad as Lagavulin for me.
it's because you've worked your way up to it here.
That's probably I've sort of numbed my palate on the way up. But it's super medicinal. It's very iodine, and there's that like
if you
sweaty note to it that I just don't like.
If you go straight to this, so like the Port Charlotte and the Talisker have like
they've numbed
numbed you to the Band-Aidy kind of. But yeah, I mean this
is nothing.
This smells like somebody's sweaty socks. Like, let's be honest. And I love it.
And I think
Delicious.
am I wrong that Lefroy is a different kind of peat? Like
dude, I don't know what they do to it.
there's something about it.
The name of it sounds dirty.
That's just different. This is the one where they talk about the cod pieces, right?
Yes. The mermaid's cod. A merman's cod piece.
Yeah, they have a wall where you can write what it tastes like, and somebody wrote that it tastes like a merman's cod piece.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's literally like they're proud of how all the negative reviews that they get in terms of like all the horrible, awful ways people describe what it tastes like.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, I think it has its place. Like, Laphroaig is probably my least favorite of the Islay distilleries. However, the Laphroaig cast strength is dramatically better than the Laphroaig 10-year-old. The Laphroaig 10-year-old to me is super thin. I probably should have given it to you guys side by side. But it's 40 proof or 40 ABV, I think. And so it's like all you get is the aroma of the peat. And then it's a really thin, lackluster actual spirit. The cast strength is just like, it's great.
So do you think that proofing it down actually increases then the impact, shall we say, of the peat? I ask Paul a question, then he leaves the microphone.
I don't know if I would say it increases the impact of the peat. I just don't think proofing it up increases it. So
yes. So yes. No, I
don't think the aromatic level of the peat is affected by ABV.
Really?
I don't think so. Not really.
See, I was wondering if the other notes in the whiskey that come out because it's cast strength cut the peat a little bit.
Oh.
And so it ends up like more of a balanced nose, whereas when you water it down, those dissipate and the smoke remains, and that's what's left. Yes. Smelling the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's...
Want to smell that one?
Yeah.
So you think the standard 10-year-old smells stinkier than the cast strength?
I think that's all I get.
Yeah.
Is that smoke. Whereas with the other one, there's some sweeter notes in there.
There's some complexity.
Yeah, there's different layers you can pick up on the nose. This one, I only get smoke.
Yeah, I think I misunderstood your question.
And that's what I get too with like Lagavulin 16. I can't get past the smoke.
Right, because it's low proof.
And Octomore is just disgusting. I'm glad you didn't put Octomore up here. I saw Octomore at a store the other day for like $2.30, and I almost sent you a text, and then I decided I didn't want you to buy it. Yeah, because I would just have to drink it on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good lineup, man. You want to jump into my list and then.
So yeah, for me, this was, stuff that I think each thing tastes different than the others. The 3 peated ones, if you're not used to peated whiskey, they're going to taste largely similar because it's hard to get past the peat. Once you get used to it, though, then you taste the nuance. But so let's go through your list.
I think you've primed me enough that I can tell the difference between those. All right, so we've talked about this a couple times on here. And like I said earlier, I don't really buy the same thing over and over again. I'm not one of those guys that has like a bottle of, Elijah Craig barrel proof or a bottle of Eagle Rare, and every time I empty it, I go buy a new one. I'm not like that. So I cheated a little bit. So I cheated on my list a little bit, and I kept it to sort of like distilleries because I am really big fans.
Oh no, James, no, you can't. No, just distilleries on your perma-shelf.
Hang with me. I give you specific.
Where
examples.
are you going to put Buffalo Trace on? The distillery.
I give you specific examples. So hang with me. All right. So my first one that I wrote down was something J. Henry, and I said that because I would love to say J. Henry limited edition. Yeah. But it's hard to get a hold of.
Right.
And it's expensive. And it's not like everybody can go out and get it, right?
Right, which is why it can't be on your perma-shelf, James.
No, but it is. I have 3 bottles of it, and it's going to be on my perma-shelf. Okay. Like, I will always have something like that. But I will always have some bottle of J. Henry, whether it's the La Flemme, which I really like.
Ooh, the fiery one?
Yeah, which is the Armagnac one, or it's a single barrel version of it. I just really like what they do, and I think I will always have a bottle of that available. But they're becoming more popular, right?
Right.
They sell out of their limited edition within like 3 hours. Like people line up and stand outside in the shitty Wisconsin weather to get a bottle of this, and that didn't used to be the case. I could buy it pretty easily, and so I would love to say the limited edition. If I can get that every year, great. But for people who haven't tried it, just just go out and get the cask strength. It's really, really good. Get the 5-year cask strength, the Patent Road Reserve, and it's really, really good.
Well, the problem though, James, is that people outside of Wisconsin
and Chicago area
cannot buy J. Henry, right?
I think Sealbox
However, I think there's
Steelbox. Yes, good point, Chad. So,
isn't there a solution to that at twosoulspirits.com?
Oh, wow.
We're working on that. Yeah. Yeah, but you can go
Do
to
you still-
Steelbox.
But you still have a J. Henry bottle or a cask from J. Henry, right?
Sold out. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a bottle back there.
yeah, and it happened to be
yeah.
one of our most popular ones. It sold out within what,
Okay.
a couple months?
Like 60 days or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the cigar barrel. I think we have like 6 bottles held back. We had somebody write us a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "Hey, are you guys going to release any more?" I'm like, "Well, I kind of want some bottles for myself." So I don't know. But if you can find anything by them, Sealbox does have them available. They at least have their like batched product, and I think some of their cask strength stuff.
I think the anniversary
highly
was on
recommended.
there a few bottles too.
Yeah, and it sold out in like 15 minutes or
Yeah.
something stupid like that.
So, wait.
You want me to go on to
He
number 2?
actually has a list.
Oh, you have a okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
All right, my second one, and I'm giving you options here, is either Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit or Wild Turkey Rare Breed.
Ooh.
Because I just really like Wild Turkey. And I think out of the big distilleries, Wild Turkey is by far my favorite. I think they know what they're doing. They put it at the right proof. There's enough variability in the product line that you can buy different things and experience the same flavor profile, but in slightly different versions.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just really damn good. I would love to get my hands on a bottle of Wild Turkey Generations, but I'm not going to. So Rare Breed or Kentucky Spirit, you can buy them everywhere. $60, readily available. Great pour.
It just baffles me that I gave you such simple parameters, like 5 bottles, and you're like, I'm gonna pick 5 brands.
I cheat.
so that I can have
I
like
cheat.
500 different bottles on my perma-shelf.
Yeah, that's
No, you gotta pick. You gotta pick. Is it Kentucky Spirit or is it Rare Breed?
Well, if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Kentucky Spirit.
There you go. See,
Yeah. And Chad, this was on your list
Well
too,
done.
right?
101 was.
Oh, 101, yeah. And which Kentucky Spirit is just a slightly older version of 101.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree.
okay.
And I think that's a bourbon where it's high enough proof that snobs like it, but it's not so overwhelmingly complex or difficult to kind of pick apart that newbies will enjoy it as well.
Right.
So it's a really, really good bottle. It's a single barrel, so there is going to be some, variability there, but I really recommend that bottle.
All right. So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. So that was my one allocated, difficult to find bottle.
So we're 3 for 5 so far. I'm finding one thing that adheres to the criteria.
You didn't give me criteria.
I
when
shouldn't
you
have to
sent
give
me
you
the list.
criteria.
You said on my shelf. This is my shelf.
Okay.
Piss off, Paul. This is my shelf. I'm going to say what's on my shelf.
You know what's funny is I think I've talked about this before, but every time I've seen a bottle of Joseph Magnus in a store, I send James a picture and I'm like, is this the good one?
Like, no.
And it's never the good one. It's always, if it's the good one, it's already sold. So other than one time I saw it and it was at double the MSRP. It was at $200. Although
that's normal. 180 to 200.
No, it must have been $299 then.
Okay, that's too much.
Because you texted back, you're like, that's $100 over MSRP.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but it's a good pour. It's a good pour. Like maybe.
Now the story behind this one is I have an in for this, and so somebody contacts me every year and asks me if I want a bottle. I usually buy one for me. This year I bought one for me and one for Chad. But this is kind of like Chad. This has really become our sort of toast bottle. So when something happens for the company or something, we buy a new barrel that we like or. Something's gone well. This is the one we kind of use to celebrate.
Yep. I love it.
And this was this on your list too?
It was, yeah. But I didn't realize it would upset Paul, so I feel like I have to retract that one.
Well, Paul loves this one, so he can sit here and complain about it, but he actually really likes this bottle. Every time I brought it on, this has been one of your favorites.
Which one?
The cigar barrel or the cigar.
Cigar. Yeah.
Yeah, you like that one.
I thought you were like talking about it like you had the bottle there, and I was like, oh,
no, I didn't want to bring it for you because I was, trying to save it.
Okay. Remember that time our friend ripped it as a shot?
Oh yeah, this is one that taught me a really good lesson. Was you don't give Joseph Magnus cigar barrel to somebody who does not appreciate Joseph Magnus cigar barrel.
Yeah,
we were tasting it in the kitchen and we were just like sipping on it, and it's to me that's what I like about this bottle the most is there's 3 different cask influences, right? And you can go through and you can taste the different casks. If you just sit down and you kind of think about it, it's a very contemplative pour, right?
Yeah.
So Chad and I are sitting here and we're talking about all the nuances of cigar barrel. And our friend comes in and she's like, hey, can I try a sip of that? And we had given her plenty of stuff before and she was fine. And so I poured her a little bit of glass. She just fucking housed it. Like just took a shot of it.
Oh, and she finished the bottle too.
And that was it.
Like,
that was it. And I was like, damn it. So after that, we were like, all right, we're not doing that anymore. And she'd never done that before, but for some reason she decided to do it with my $180 bottle of Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend.
So the story I have about that, my dad is too generous with his whiskey. Dad, if you're watching this, you're too generous with your whiskey. But here's his problem, right? I don't think he realizes he has this problem. He drinks infrequently enough that he only has like ultra top shelf bottles. He doesn't have anything that's like a normal person's whiskey at his house. He has like 6 bottles in his collection at a time, and they're all like $400. They're all like the 25 or the 27-year-old or the whatever scotch.
Can we invite your dad onto the podcast?
Other than the bottle of Two Souls, the double barrel from
Watershed.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he texted James. He's like, "This is the best thing I've ever put in my mouth."
Great.
That was the cigar barrel. That was the J. Henry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he just gave that to his best friend.
Yeah.
He gave the rest of the bottle to him. So, but my point is like, we'll have like New Year's parties or people be over for like we just did like Oktoberfest not too long ago or whatever it is. And he'll bring out his bottle of scotch, some bottle of scotch. And I'm always like, yeah, it's like a $300, $400 bottle or something. And I'll pour it for people. And inevitably there's someone there who like doesn't actually know, like this is their first time they've ever seen a Glencairn, and they just think it's a fancy shot glass, and they just like slam it. And the one that really stuck with me was the Kavalan Solist Fino, which I have up there, and like I feel like it should just be obvious, right? I feel like it shouldn't have to be explained. If something comes in a wooden box lined with gold foil.
You open it up and music plays,
right? And you open it up and there's like literally this like
right.
of like
angels choir in the background.
I feel like it shouldn't have to be explained that like you don't just slam that, but it does.
How it goes.
And he poured it for one of his friends at New Year's, and like the guy just like slammed it back and he's like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And I'm like, you don't say. Like,
I'm going to punch you right now.
Like that was like literally $30 worth of that you just slammed, and and it's like, but that's how you learn who to serve. Good stuff.
And I learned not to serve her that again.
Not to.
That was pretty easy.
Do you want to try that, by the way, Chad?
I do now.
Yeah. You want to grab it? It's right there.
Are we doing shots?
You want to take a
we're doing shots. Don't knock over my bottle of Tesla tequila though when you pull it down. That is unopened. I'm saving that. It's an investment for when Elon Musk dies. I'm gonna cash that in for millions of dollars.
All right. While Chad gets this one, I'll go on to my 4th one.
Okay.
And Paul, I think this fits the criteria. Oh, Paul. Oh, nice. The box is open. Yep. So I think my next one fits your criteria, and I think you'll be proud of this one.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Balboa Rye from New Riff.
Ooh, oh baby.
Yeah.
I am proud of that one.
Oh.
Come on. Every damn bottle, dude.
What is with scotch and corks?
No,
man?
the problem is that all of the bottles that I own are like 8 years old because I never drank any of my whiskey, and so it's like it just.
Oh man!
And this isn't Scotch. Well, it is single malt, but
yeah, it's single malt.
Oh, it's not Scotch. Oh,
yeah.
No, it's
so
not Scotch.
for my fourth one, and Chad, I think you'll agree with this one on the Balboa Rye. That is one of the more like, it's really unique.
Mhm.
So if somebody's really nerdy about American whiskey or they're really nerdy about rye, it's different. It's at 100 proof, so it's got a nice little kick to it, and it's just super unique. Like there's that floral note, there's a spicy note to it. I absolutely love that bottle. I think we've bought what? Like you were traveling once, right?
Yeah, we bought a couple. Ironically, I had the malted rye on my list. So
Oh, did you?
yeah, I like the Balboa. The Balboa is cool because it has that like really like soft, like smooth start that like you just get right into it, and then it just opens up more, I think. And I don't know, it's just and Balboa just sounds cool.
It's rocky, right? So why did you put the malted?
I
but you
love his logic there. His
It just
Balboa
sounds
sounds
cool.
cool.
Yeah. You didn't have the Balboa on your list, but you had the malted.
Yeah.
And same thing,
Well,
new riff. So why'd you put that?
You guys were saying Paul was saying readily available.
Let
So
me get fresh glasses since we just had Lefroy.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like malted rye I find much more than the Balboa. So that's kind of why I put it on the list.
And the malted is very like, it's almost bubblegummy.
Yeah.
It's even more floral. Either one of those I think is a really good choice. But the Balboa, I see pretty readily. Like when it first came out, it was kind of hard to find. Paul, I think you sent me a couple pictures of it, and I think you bought one. Chad found it while he was traveling, so he bought a couple bottles.
It's pretty available, and it honestly doesn't really make sense to me for how good it is.
No,
like-
it's really good, but they make a lot of it,
Right.
and it's an heirloom variety of rye, so it's a little bit different. It tastes different than what you've had, but I really, really like that bottle. And I think when I was kind of looking at my shelf and trying to figure out what I was going to pick for my number 4, like that's one that when I run out of it, I'll be sad, and so I'll probably go out and buy another bottle of it.
Yeah. This is
Thanks, Paul. I'm excited to try
you're
this.
welcome. It's like 55 point something, I think.
56.3.
Holy crap,
56.3.
that's good.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that like raisiny note to it.
Dude, tell you what. See, here's the thing. If we're doing perma-shelf, but like we're allowed to put whatever
Ultra perma-shelf.
ultra perma-shelf, basically it's all Kavalan for me. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
this stuff is like,
Oh man.
I like Scotch, but honestly, nothing still to this day, nothing quite hits like Kavalan. Their Solist,
Man,
their Solist line. Like
it's like raisiny and plummy and like
and,
wow.
and they're all like 5 years old or 6 years
really?
old.
That's
Yeah.
really good. You're stealing the thunder from my list here, Paul. You're bringing out
Sorry.
these really expensive bottles. And
Sorry,
stuff.
well you mentioned it, so or I mentioned it.
now I don't even want to give my 5th.
All right, what's your fifth one?
So my 5th one, I'm gonna cheat.
Bullet
again.
bourbon.
I'm gonna cheat again. I really, really like JD Heritage Barrel,
Mhm.
and so that's gonna be my number 5.
Which is impossible to find, right?
No. Every time I go back to Wisconsin, I find multiple bottles of it. It depends
I'm
on
thinking of JD12.
the JD12 is impossible. I would have put JD10 on the list if you could find it over
Yeah.
because I preferred that to the 12. But I wanted to put something from Jack Daniels on there because I've come to appreciate Jack Daniels, and I think a lot of people shit on Jack Daniels because they're just used to old number 7 and like the black label and everything. But their special releases are actually really good. They're coming out with, they have some double barrel releases, they have barrel proof releases, they have really good rye that's come out over the past couple years. But the heritage barrels to me are really, really interesting, and I like those. They're all a little bit different. They're in about the $100 to $125 range, so it's a little bit pricey, but I've seen them a lot recently, and I feel like they've upped the production of them or they've upped the releases of them. You can find it around, but I would also throw like JD Barrel Proof in there. I think JD Barrel Proof is another really, really good bottle that you can find that's affordable.
I think the 10 is better than barrel proof.
The JD10 is killer. Like it was one of my favorite bottles. Didn't we give it an award for like 2022 or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think we gave that to JD12.
No, I've always liked 10 better than 12.
I don't think the 10 was out when we gave it to JD12.
No,
Didn't the
'cause
10 come
12
out after the 12?
No, Paul.
I don't know.
No, it came out after.
Dude, I can't. You can't ask me like 2 years ago.
When you're like 5 pours in, I can't ask you questions. But I'm pretty sure we gave that an award at some point. It was one of my favorites. But JD's doing good stuff. I originally thought about, I also really like Far North Rye. I tried their Hazlitt Rye. I think Chad's tried that. I really, really like that.
That's the one that I'm surprised you didn't have on your shelf was Far North, because like
not Found North.
Oh,
Far North. See, I know you're getting confused.
Yeah, well, that's not my fault. Which one's the like 27-year-old Canadian
That's the
whiskey?
Found North.
Damn, yeah, that's the one.
And Found North is like
everything. Found North on mine.
Everything is 200 bottles and it's gone, right? And everything's like $200. Far North does really interesting ryes, and they do single varietal ryes. So I brought the Hazlitt on here once, and I really liked it. I also had other options. I thought about Watershed single barrels. I thought about a High West pick, because I think the double rye High West picks are always really fun. And that was pretty much it for my list. So I'm gonna go with something J. Henry, Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, the Magnus Cigar Blend from kind of my premium one, and then the Balboa Rye, and a JD Heritage Barrel, or a barrel proof if you can't find the Heritage Barrel.
Okay, I'm only mostly peeved.
That's good. That's good.
All right, Chad.
Oh, geez.
Did you? Yeah, I know you had some that overlapped with me.
Now I know. Realistically, it's two souls, no, down the list. But and you could put I'll let you put a Two Souls bottle on there if you have a real stand.
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever asked Chad what his favorite Two Souls is.
That is a good question. I've got to say, like, just because we had so much of it and it took a little bit longer to sell was the Finger Lakes 6-year straight rye.
Oh yeah.
And I think after I explained it so many times to so many different people and gave it to enough people, that I really came to appreciate like just how good it was and nuanced for, an almost 7-year rye. And, a lot of people I think initially turned their nose up at it, and it was like, here, just try this. And they're like,
it's a little lower proof. It was like 104 or 105, right?
Yeah. So, that one's great. But on my list, I had New Riff Malted Rye. I had the Cigar Blend from Joseph Magnus. And when I wasn't going to put Scotch, but when you started talking about it, I got to put the Classic Lottie on there.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
I really Classic Lottie popping
because you got to have some for when Paul comes over.
Yeah, there you go. Even though I never get invited.
Only for Paul.
Even though I have never been invited over.
Yeah, we got to have you over. Yeah. We got to have you over.
It's funny because like I see, because James and I founded the Gainesville Whiskey Club.
You wait a minute.
And by James and I founded, I mean James founded, but he asked me if I wanted to help him put on events and stuff. And then I was like, sure, I'll do that. And I take credit for it.
Oh, but, good.
But I see, I saw you guys did like a Two Souls, what was it? Like a propaganda.
Propaganda.
But like you guys did like a private tasting for the Ocala / Gainesville Whiskey Club group, which was really cool.
It was fun.
Which I didn't get an invite to. So awkward,
Are you part of the group?
I don't know, but
we really need to organize something that's a little bit bigger. Right. I don't know, rent a space somewhere and do it right.
All I'm saying, Chad, is that I recently drove many miles out to go help you guys pour your product at a farm somewhere.
Yeah.
and then I don't get an invite to the
recently.
In my mind, I've got ADHD. Everything's recent to me.
So, all right.
It was probably a year ago, to be honest.
Paul wants to go on a barrel pick, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, my point is.
Yeah, that's what we're getting.
Well, that's what I keep asking. I'm like, when are we?
But
supposedly I'm invited on these.
I delivered you to a good malt whiskey.
That's true.
And I just wrote them today, and they were interested. So
I know
it's a
and
possibility.
So am I.
Paul. It's a possibility. And
we just got to find the right barrel to put it in.
And as soon as they set a date, I will not invite you. So we'll be fine. It'll be status quo.
Yep. Daniel, real quick before you finish your list, Daniel Williams says he's up at 2 a.m. because of reasons, but he's enjoying the podcast enough that he's not going to bed. He says we deserve more viewers.
Oh,
to which I agree.
Thank you.
So thank you. I appreciate you.
Where are you at that it's 2 a.m.?
We are a global sensation, James. Global sensation.
Yeah, you had I remember originally when you were doing Malt Mondays, didn't you have 3 people from Poland that
more than that? Yeah. No, we have every state except for 2. I'd have to double check, but we're missing we're missing Utah and Maryland or something. But
That's
we have every other state. But we have tons of countries. We have some people in Norway, some people in Asia that watch, South America. Yeah, global sensation. Whiskey Uncut.
We're so famous.
TM.
We're so famous.
We're so famous. Okay, Chad, continue. Sorry.
Did you
I
have
think I was on
else?
3. So did I mention Wild Turkey 101 already?
No. Yeah, we mentioned that at the beginning, but that's a good one.
Yep. So Wild Turkey 101, and I honestly really haven't come up with a 5th. I really wanted to say something 1792.
Well, you can pick a Two Souls for your 5th.
Okay.
Yeah,
I will.
And this is a good question because everything we do is 180 bottles and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
But if you could have one that you just had some sort of eternal spring of that bottle, which one would you pick?
I gotta say, it's with the inaugural release. It's the 4-year Watershed
I
Bourbon.
knew you were going to pick him. Yeah.
I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Really?
And I can't argue with him because it won double gold. So there's nothing I can say. But yeah, that was a really good barrel, man.
See, I think for me, it would be the rum finished rye. And that's the one I regret the most not purchasing. So I bought the rye finished rum because that was a close second. Rum was what got me into spirits in the first place. And so that rum to me is super special because it's so different from anything available. But it's funny that you say your inaugural release because I wonder realistically, put your objective hats on. How much of that do you think is, on your part, sentimental value of it being the inaugural release of your company, launching your company,
and the first barrels we bought,
and the first barrels that you bought, relative to what you've done afterwards? Because you've done another Watershed release since then, and obviously, I'm not trying to say pick something over Watershed. We love Watershed. We gave them best bourbon of the year.
They've won every year.
They've won every practice. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. They make amazing products. But if you were to try and look past that, do you think that would still be it? Or
I remember when we had those barrels and we were tasting the Yahara Bay rye, the hazmat rye, not the rum finished one. But I looked at James and I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And so for me, it was at that proof, it was a lot. But I've come over time to appreciate it more. But I don't know, something was just special about that one. It was just fun. It had this I always like the viscous mouthfeel that's oily. Yeah. And in the young bourbon, I feel like you don't usually get that. And so yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that jumped out at me about that one, and part of the reason I picked it was the age statement doesn't matter as much as what people think it does.
Yeah.
And that was a 4-year bourbon that I think drank 6.
Yeah.
And it was completely different than anything they had in their line. So, and I know that's always been one of your favorites. I always really liked, I have a soft spot for that Finger Lakes rye just because it's so different and it's so unique. And I think out of everything we've released, it's the nerdiest. There's no question that it's the nerdiest. It's funky and rich and sweet and just different. And you can tell people's reaction to it when they've had a lot of whiskey before. People who have drank a lot of whiskey love that pour.
Right.
People who haven't think it's disgusting. And I'm like, all right, well, at least I know what my audience is, right? And so that's always been a soft spot for me because it was just kind of a special barrel, and I'd never had anything like it. I still don't have anything like it. I just had somebody reach out yesterday and they're like, "Hey, do you have another bottle?" And we finally sold out. So it was like the people who loved that barrel loved that barrel.
Yeah.
And that was really special to me.
So yeah, I think it's interesting because you just sent me an article about a release that was limited, and this was with the Scotch theme of the night.
Because we had talked about this not a couple weeks ago in the news, right?
And so this was we had talked about how Diageo is reopening Port Ellen, and Port Ellen is like notorious for like it's the Stitzel Weller of the Scotch world, right? It's the distillery that shut down in the 80s, and everything since then, everyone's like, Port Ellen, like.
And are there barrels of it floating around?
There are, because Scotch ages for 30, 40, 50 years, right? So, every year, whoever bought the barrels, Diageo bought the rights to it, but they never reopened the distillery, because why would you reopen a distillery when you can just keep selling the barrels you have for exponentially increasing values every year? Like,
yeah, sure.
Like, until you're out of those barrels, just keep riding that wave, right? Well, they're reopening the distillery, but they're still selling some of those old barrels. And it's just funny because, like, it just goes to show you, like, when they talk about scarcity, because usually what they'll talk about is like, well, there's only 200 bottles of this available. And I'm like, there's only 200 bottles of Two Salt Spirits available, right?
Yeah. That doesn't inflate the price.
That doesn't inflate the price.
No.
But their new release, the Port Ellen Gemini, is coming out at the eye-watering price of $56,688 a bottle, because there's only 240 something bottles left.
Honestly, sounds like a steal.
274 bottles. It is a steal.
You should buy multiple bottles.
Yep.
How do you buy it? On Sotheby's auction?
Probably.
Yeah, it's going to be an auction. Yeah.
The Gemini original was drawn from untouched whiskey casks dating back to 1978, according to the brand. Matured in European oak butts longer than any release from Port Ellen, and has what the brand refers to as a sweet, salty, and smoky quality. Like, and here's the thing though, right? People is like, I get it. It's really old. I have tried 40 and 50-year-old Scotch before. It's great. It is not worth your entire year's salary.
No.
To buy. Like, it is so absurd to me. Like, having, like, and granted, like the ones I've tried are from like brands like Glenfarclas, which are family owned, and their 40-year-old Scotch is only like $4,000 or $5,000, which is still a lot, but it's like, that's within the realm of possibility of like a person like saving up for like their 50th birthday to buy one big bottle or something. It's not like you have to be on like the 1% level to afford this bottle, right? But I just fundamentally don't believe that Port Ellen's that much better, or Macallan or anybody, like, and it's just so wild to me that something which is a consumable product gains this value beyond its consumable value. Like,
well, that's the thing, is nobody's going to consume it, right? Nobody's paying $56,000 for a bottle of Scotch, and then opening it.
Oh yeah. Dan Williams also said, and there's Brora. By the way, he's watching from Amsterdam. But Brora is another one that's like Port Ellen. That's
okay. Yeah, I don't see anybody buying those bottles and opening them. What I hear in this story, Chad, is we need to charge more for our bottles.
Yes.
So if our bottles are 200,
you have a range of about $55,000 that you could be charging easily.
Yeah, it's a steal at $1,000 a bottle.
Somewhere between $150 and $55,000.
Yeah,
is the right
fine.
range for.
Yeah, we got some space to maneuver there on the if scarcity is what's driving it. Certainly, there's a certain clientele that's going to buy that kind of stuff, and it's the people who I think look at whiskey as an investment, and that's just not my. That's not my thing. Like,
it's just wild to me because like everything else, right? That's like an investment is like gold. Like gold has a useful aspect to it beyond, like, it's not just jewelry. It's used in circuit boards. It's used like in all this other stuff, right? Like rare metals have actual objective value, and they have like a luxury nonsensical value because it's shiny, right?
Yeah.
Whiskey is only shiny. That's it. And so it's baffling to me that like these things go like this when there's so many things that are coming out that are equally as limited or equally as, delicious.
And when you really think about it, 200 bottles isn't all that limited. Like that's pretty limited. That's what most single barrels are, right?
Yeah, but that's as limited as it can be, James.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if you had a short barrel and it was 40 bottles,
yeah,
that's one thing, right?
Well, like, once you get to like 75-year-old Scotch, then it's like 40
there's
bottles.
Nothing left.
Yeah, there's like
even with the low evaporation in Scotland, there's not going to be that much left. But,
and let me tell you, you're not getting away with the steel at $55,000.
I think you need to buy
75-year-old Macallan.
Yeah, you need
those are like $800,000.
You need to corner the market on those things. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I did the math, but before we finish,
we
wrap, I did the math.
Good.
And my calculator did it for me. And if you do 56,000 times 274 bottles, you get that barrel was worth $15.3 million.
Oh my God.
Oh, we have so much room, Chad. So much room.
Oh man.
So you talked about wanting to buy a single barrel from us for the podcast, Paul. Yeah. So like, I'll give you a break. It'd be $2 million. It'd a fraction of what they're doing there.
Yeah,
that's
ridiculous.
Good. I like that. That's this week's stupid whiskey news.
Yeah, that's our stupid whiskey news. All right. So did you get your last one?
Yep.
That was the two souls.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we did good lists. I mean, I think
James cheated.
I cheated, but it works. It works.
What do you got, Paul?
Is there any questions over there?
Dan Williams says, if you want to figure out if Macallan is worth it at $500, get a signatory Speyside 18-year-old for less than half of it at cast strength. Yeah, pretty much. That's like the signatory, the Macallan 25 that I let you try. That's like $2,000 a bottle, but by comparison to standard Macallan 25, it's like 6 ABV higher. And it's actually a single barrel, and it's not the batched product, and like it's just like fundamentally better.
Yeah,
in every regard, and so yeah. I mean, independent bottlers like Two Souls are generally the way to go for most stuff, and that's one of the things like that frustrates me so much about the Scotch market, at least where I live, is there's very little access to independent bottling of Scotch. You have signatory, and you have
Gordon and
MacPhail a little bit, but I mean that's like 4 or 5 bottles on the shelf at Total Wine out of 500 bottles of Scotch.
Yeah, there's just not that many.
Everything is like the standard distillery bottlings, and that's where, like, if I lived in Scotland or I could afford to be part of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, because they do independent bottlings. But you have to pay like a subscription, and then you got to buy the bottles on top of that. It's like, that's where you get the gems, right?
And you need to sell that Tesla tequila and then pay for your membership to that society.
I wonder how much that Tesla tequila is worth right now. It's probably less than I paid for.
It probably went down.
Oh shit. $1,500, baby.
And it was a $500 bottle.
Now it's like $250, I think.
Oh, I thought it was $500 when it came out.
It might have been. It was expensive.
They just came out with a beer.
Oh yeah.
Stein
dude.
Have you tried the Tesla tequila, Paul? You want?
No, it's sealed, man.
I tried it.
Shh, it's amazing. It's the best tequila you've ever tried.
Yeah,
James, shut up. Okay. Don't hurt my value of my investment.
Where'd you try it?
Keith bought some.
Did he?
Yeah, he bought a bunch of different
that's
bottles.
right. It was $420.
Yeah, I thought it was $500 or
nope,
so.
$420.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My friend bought one. He bought a couple. He I think he bought 2 or 3. He kept a couple back and he opened one. And so I tried it. Yeah. It's an extra añejo or just an
one.
añejo?
Yeah,
it's a
añejo. Yeah.
I really should have got one when I bought the car.
It was no. Yeah, it was $250 when it came out.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have bought it, Chad.
Tesla was at $420. Yeah, the $420 was about him taking it private.
The funny thing is, Paul,
tequila was $250.
You're really excited about this, but you're never gonna sell it. You're just gonna stare at it until you die an old man.
Dude, $1,500.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's honestly life changing.
I could retire.
Life changing.
I could retire.
Oh boy! All right.
So, all right. I think that's enough.
Yeah, we've had enough whiskey at this point.
Well, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the audio problems at the beginning. Hopefully that was actually resolved.
It seems like it was. I didn't hear anybody complaining, so.
Yeah, and thank you. Well, the people who were complaining left.
Yeah.
because the echo was too bad. So I don't know. I'll get that resolved, but before next time. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Remember, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
And James, thank you for drinking my whiskey. You didn't bring anything today.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's my favorite kind of podcast. That's great.
But remember, guys, drink, share, enjoy, and until next time, thank you to all our patrons.
Yes.
They keep the lights on.
Cheers.
Cheers.